Hello, Joe. You got the
Senor Brad
ETHDenver hangover?
Yeah, I only drank like what, 3 or 4 beers the whole time, but I'm just friggin' wiped out. I don't mean per night, audience. I mean like I was dragging at those happy hours, so I'd be nursing one beer. But I think it's just the go, go, go. Like 10 hours of interviews over those 2 days, and then on Saturday all the follow ups and booth walking, and then of course the flights back. And what was it yesterday? It was 26 degrees and 12% humidity.
Yeah.
And I think I just beat you up, but everybody in the plane's coughing and stuff like that. So I'm like pounding vitamins and outside exercise and then getting fresh air. Oh, I like that look. That looks cool.
Yeah, that's good. I was trying to find something with the colors a little better. So
yeah.
So dude, ETHDenver was kind of crazy.
Dude, I was just looking at your tweets from the Canto party too, the death party. That looks like a friggin' rave in Mexico City or something like that,
They went in and took over. Took over that one bar that I went to first, Mockery, and then they had too many people, and the bartender was like, "Look, we're way over fire code here. You need to fucking find someplace else to send some of these people." So then they went over to Coyote Ugly and took over there. So it's fucking nuts, dude. That's
where all the hot people were, right? That's where all the hot people were.
Yeah, because I wasn't there.
Yeah, I already after the carbon one, I was just like, I'm faded at this point.
Yeah. Well, it was cool because that night we went to the core contributor party for Canto, and that was great because we got to meet Variant, the investors that took a big chunk of Canto, and those guys were great. And then we got to meet the core development teams because there's multiple teams that are doing core development, separate entities, separate companies that are doing core development on the chain. That was cool. Scott, when I came in, Scott Lewis, one of the original core contributors, gave me a big giant hug when I walked in, or not when I walked in, when he walked in. And he was so grateful. I think they'd been partying a little before the actual contributor.
Really? There was partying going on out there in Denver?
Yeah. And from what I understand, at the death party, there were a number of people dropping acid. So that must have been interesting to watch.
Well,
I'm not naming any names. Although I do know some specific names that were doing it. I'm not naming any names.
Well, that kind of had that total rave element to it. So
it was awesome because
then
the death party meme really started blowing up on Twitter. Everybody's making fun of Hasu for saying it'd be dead by March 4th. And, we know it's not. And that was, look, those parties were not the only parties that night. There were probably, 24 parties that night, but, I think Canto took the storm for the last night.
I suspect there weren't a lot of attendees on Sunday. I was going to go back out there.
If the airport was any judge, it was packed, fucking packed.
Did you get out of there? Did you get stuck in the lines?
No, I went through the secret security gate. There's my wife looked it up online, and there's actually a third security entrance that you can go to called Bridge Security in Denver. And it's at the end of the whole building. You're looking down on the security areas from up above when you first come into the ticketing area. At the end of the building is a thing called Bridge Security, and you walk in, and there's no fucking line, and you walk straight up. Get your shit, get in the security screening, and go. You're done. It was awesome.
Nice. No, I already checked in, so I was looking for Clear, and when I got to Clear, there was a big line there, and I'm like, well, that's not making sense. And so, of course, then there was a nice priority line, and I went through that one, and it took me 4 minutes to get through. But regular security was just backed up. And I think what happens is Clear markets all the people that are looking at the big lines, and they sign people up right away, and that backs up the regular line. So, I'm not really too keen on that at this point. But, getting out from Miami, it was super easy. And, a couple of times I've flown from DC down here using it. It's really helped out. So,
yeah.
But look, man, on Sunday, go ahead.
The official tally at the show was 12,221 attendees.
Nice.
Yeah. That's a lot of fucking people.
Yeah, Saturday was really packed. I was kind of surprised because Friday was super packed, and I thought that Saturday would maybe people be blowing out because a lot of people I know left on Friday night. And then I went on Saturday. We went on Saturday, and it was just packed with people. So
yeah.
I don't know. It was definitely a good time. And look, when you see all the doom and gloom out there and the overall market, and everybody's talking about, then you go walking around. To go walking around something like that, and you see all the projects. I mean, everybody was there,
dude,
and so much exciting stuff was going on.
We barely scratched the surface of everybody that was there. I mean, I had a list of 30 people I wanted to meet with. I probably got through a third of them, I mean, it was absolutely insane. And you're absolutely right. There was like zero sense of, bear market, regulatory pressure. Nobody was like, people were just fucking building and integrating and partying and just, I felt really great. I felt really good coming out of it that despite everything else that's going on in this industry that people might treat as a negative or a reason to stay away or whatever. I mean, there were 12,000 people that were fucking ignoring it all, right? I mean, there were regulatory discussions, there were all kinds of cool things happening, but at the end of the day, it was fantastic. So, we got comments. I didn't even notice.
Yeah, I just noticed that too.
Niblet says the acid explains the crypto Teletubbies song you posted. And Niblet says, yes, the Denver airport, don't go downstairs. Shh, don't tell anybody, right? Shizzy, is this you? DeFi discussions now label? All right. So Canto's not dead. No, not dead. Although there's now a Telegram group called Canto the Resurrection. So that would be tomorrow if we're doing the 3-day standard for resurrections. So the
Messiah's coming.
They should have spelled it res erections, but they did not. They spelled it the proper way. But anyway, it was great. It was a lot of fun. Chuck said, Kento zombies. Yes. So it's crazy, Joe. Look, I mean, I learned so much and got so much from it. And then you and I mean, we had, I don't know how many interviews we did. How many interviews did we do?
I think we did 10.
You really? I thought it was like 12. Whatever. It was a lot.
Well, maybe 12. Interviews. Yeah. I mean, it shipped a ton.
Yeah. And it was like, we basically spent the first 2 days just doing fucking interviews. And we did some schmoozing and some networking, but for the most part, that was it. So, and then we went
No, you're right. That was like wall to wall those 2 days. Cause I remember it was so dry and I kept going, man, I'm getting sick. And then I was realizing, no, it's just the dry air and all the talking.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And then we went to the Alchemix party, which was great fucking tacos.
Yeah.
And then who else? What other parties did we go to?
Oh dang. I want to say I have to look at my calendar, but there was like I remember one day we were like quadruple booked. And
we went to the Carbon party,
Yep.
Carbon Bancor party, which was actually pretty inspiring, even though it was a small turnout because Bancor's had their problems. I was pretty fired up after we left there about their new direction with that platform Carbon. I think that's going to fucking kill, and I think it's a gateway for the DeFi curious CeFi traders of the world. I think that's what I really like that model, and that they're saying, fuck it, we're going after people that need to be able to trade at speed, that trade and day trade. That to me I was really glad to see that. Shizzy says, how was the overall mood of everyone? Did it feel like a bear market? Not to me. I don't know, Joe, you? I had no sense of a bear market.
I mean, that's kind of what we were talking about earlier, that, when you go see it in real life, what's going on. And I mean, it's literally like we were talking about how we didn't get to everybody. And I remember we were sitting at the end talking to the Arweave guys and all the people tied to them. And I'm standing there, I look to the right and there's the Polkadot booth. I look to the left, there's the Chainlink booth. And I'm like, there's two that are in my top 10 list all the time that I didn't even remotely get to, because there was so much exciting new stuff there to see. God. When we talked to the Rocket Pool guys, they're coming on. I mean, we did EtherFi, which was that really cool keep your keys staking model, which which was super interesting.
Decentralized staking, which was very cool. We had a good interview with them.
Yep. And then I'm trying to think. Yeah, we went by the Arbitrum booth, and it was just sort of like, okay. And, it would be a B chain. We were hanging out with them a lot. I mean, those guys are killing it. Trust wallets. Yeah. Awesome interview with Aowen. That'll be coming up soon. We just met so many people. And I know I'm forgetting a bunch.
For Polygon.
Yeah, that's right. Polygon BD guy, head of it. And also don't forget, the Waxman people, the PR agency that was running it. I mean, they were just spot on everywhere. So, I'm thinking about Charlie and Ellie in particular. And then all the East Coast guys that were bringing stuff to us. I mean, and also the guys that, are coming on tomorrow, CoreDAO. I was talking to them as well at the show. So, just Mets, and, that's a project I'm really excited about that interview tomorrow, just because, they're getting so much traction and they're all outside. It's outside the U.S. play, but, I'm really excited to learn more about that Satoshi Plus consensus mechanism, which seems to be getting a lot of good technical review. But I mean, I know I'm not naming 6 people or 7 or 8 projects.
No, we've got tons. Yeah, tons. Well, I mean, look, and I want to tell everybody, this week's going to be a little different. We have interviews we want to get on the air, and we also are a bit overbooked on interviews this week. So it's going to be a little bit less of Joe and Brad banter and a little bit more of meeting and getting to learn about new projects, including we're going to have in just a moment, I'm going to run the Axelar interview. But we did realize that we need to start blocking off 2 days a week for the standard banter and degen shit that we like to do a lot. So we've blocked those off the calendar now. Nobody can book interviews with us for those for at least 2 days a week. We'll always have Sean on Friday, and looking forward to this Friday back with him. But this week is going to be interview. And off hours, I've got to put out the interviews we did that we're not going to be able to run on the show. And so like the interview with the CEO of Trust Wallet, I got to tell you guys, she is, wow. I was blown away and inspired by that woman. Like really powerful model for how she's running that organization that, she kind of ended up getting thrown into that organization by CZ's partner. And then the founder of Trust Wallet decided to depart for a while to be with his family. And so she ended up having to figure out how to take over that company and at the same time start running product for that company. So really fascinating interview. And I really liked her management philosophy and how she's doing things and the product philosophy. Look, I haven't been a big user of Trust Wallet, but the interview alone made me want to go back and give it a shot and see what it's like. So,
yeah, I share that 100%. I mean, she was, her management style. I mean, I don't want to steal her thunder because you guys are going to want to watch this, but just the way she motivates the team and how she supports the team, it's how you want to be as a CEO, inclusive and supportive. She's not an alpha-driven, monster, basically.
What was the word? The metaphor?
Sweep the floor.
I want to sweep the floor for the team. Yeah.
So my first inclination was like seeing a bat or something coming down and taking the legs out of everybody. I realized she was talking about literally cleaning up the messes for the team and keeping them happy and content and focused, being in their corner all the time. Yeah. And that was like, you don't run into that a lot. And a lot of times when people say that, that's BS because they're just, megalomaniacs at the office. But she is not that. And I'm super impressed. A lot of people could learn a lot from her style.
Yeah. All right. So we'll have more discussions about the things we met and learned about this week. And we will have some sub episodes coming out. Like the interview with her is not one we're going to just put on the normal channel, normal 12 o'clock show. So keep an eye on the podcast feed. I've got the 2 episodes from last week I've got to load in, and then I'll load in today's. That'll all happen this afternoon and this evening. So you're going to be already, those of you that listen on the podcast, you're going to have those loaded up. And then we will be loading in other interviews we've done, interspersed between the live show interviews. So just be prepared, everyone. And we've got more interviews next week coming up. So we got the guys from Redstone Finance, that interview we did, Marcin.
Mm-hmm. And, I forgot about that one.
Yeah. So, and that one's actually really exciting. I love that company. I love the way they're functioning. That it's a Polish company. So
yeah, Chuck said super cool. Go good.
Chuck said, best early stage managers have one job: make sure the team has what they need to do their job. Leaders who make it about themselves are red flags. Dude, that is so spot on for exactly how this woman is running that company. And, look, they've got 10 million users, right? And there's 50 people on that entire company. I think, amazing.
48 are engineers?
Yeah, something that was crazy.
Something like 46, 48. It's like the vast majority. So, and again, you'll see it in the interview, but I mean, all these companies are they're hiring, they're looking for people to join, they're looking for just about everything. So, when like what Shizzy said, when you're in there, I'm telling you, you can really see all the activity going on, and it's not contracting, it's expanding.
Yeah, there is zero decline in interest, activity, excitement, integrations, partnerships. I mean, it was fast and furious, and we didn't even get to the whole floor of builders in the hackathons. I mean, we didn't didn't get close to any of that shit. I had people that were in hackathons that wanted me to come meet with them, that are players in the space, and there was no way we couldn't even get close to it. And so anyway, and there were all kinds of. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. No, I was going to say the other thing, we met a lot of people. We met a lot of media people too. Met people from Bloomberg. Met German Wall Street Journal equivalent. I think it's Handelsblatt. Decrypt. Yeah. Some Cointelegraph people were there. Just met everybody. So when we're doing projects, a lot of these people are going to start watching the show. So you can expect that when people are interviewed here, they're going to start getting picked up in other channels as well. So we kind of did a really good job of bolstering all of our distribution and all of our pipeline of deal flow coming from multiple groups. So it was really, really productive.
Niblet said in reply to Chuck, and how many businesses seem to be just vehicles for CEO ego? Theranos, WeWork, Wonderland Time, etc. Totally agree. Totally agree. Yep.
Yeah, there's that ethos out there in tech about, thinking that it has to, you've got to, I don't know, fake it till you make it, or, be an asshole, or just be like always selling. And what you'll see with Eowyn is that, in others that we've referenced here, that, you don't have to be that way. Right. I think maybe you got to be delusional to go chase down those $2 billion investments, or, just think about the stuff with SBF and I don't want to even name the big funds anymore because I don't want to keep slamming them, but where they were just so into his megalomaniacal style that they were like, love this guy, because they want people that are going to never stop. And that doesn't really always work.
That's right.
So very refreshing.
Yeah. All right. So I've got our interview with Axelar queued up, and we're going to play that now. You guys are still welcome. I believe you can still comment, make comments about it. I was actually really impressed with this protocol. I had no clue what the hell it was going into it. This is a cross-chain comms protocol, but I actually think their ultimate plan is a bit more than that, because it is actually a full-blown chain with validator nodes. But the model for how this thing functions in terms of cross-chain comms, cross-chain swaps, the layers of the protocol, the projects that are already building on it, were really impressive. And I'm going to be checking out, what was it? SquidNet was the first layer on top of them.
Yeah.
I'm going to be checking that one out. Go ahead.
Aren't they kind of built on top of Cosmos? I couldn't quite, I don't remember.
Yeah, so they're using part of the comms protocol is using the same stuff that's in Cosmos. So anyway, he'll explain that. Yeah, he'll explain that to you guys. But wait, Shizzy said that?
Yeah, he goes, just when we were talking, not before or after. I don't know. He just goes,
I thought you meant right now. I'm like, I don't see his comment.
No, you don't see it. It's right there. It's the last one.
No, that's weird. It's not updating.
1221, right below Nib's one about no perpetual beta.
That's weird. It's not showing up for me.
What's the last comment you see?
Niblets, Theranos, WeWork, Wonderland Time.
No, there's like 3 more below that.
Oh shit.
Now
I got it. I went off of it, came back up.
Yeah.
Niblets said, in crypto where code is law, make it till you fake it. It's a recipe for abject failure. Niblets says there's no perpetual beta here. And Shizzy said Axelar on Cosmos. Yeah, Axelar on Cosmos, but moving to multiple chains. So.
Oh, good for you. He's mistaken them for a while too. Now, the other thing is that it also functions as a bridge. So, not just messaging. So that's kind of like to Brad's point, I can't remember exactly how he said it, but there's a lot less, like, you don't have to have the piles of liquidity on both sides of the bridge for the bridging capability to function. It almost does it on like one side of it, and I guess messages it to the other side. But to Brad's point, look, this, whether they intend it or not, this could evolve into its, a whole big cross-chain, multi-chain bridging messaging layer. I don't know, 0.5 or something.
Well, I mean, if I were going to if I were going to launch an L1 right now, right, and I wanted to do it without being in direct competition with Ethereum and Polygon, and I wanted developers to feel safe that, they weren't like, this wasn't a competitor to their favorite L1, whatever it is.
Yep.
I might do it this way. So,
because it's almost agnostic.
I'm not saying that's what they're doing, because there's no indication that's what they're doing. But if you listen to the interview, I asked a few questions that got there. So anyway, let's load this up, Joe. I hope it loads up.
Cool.
You guys feel free to comment, ask questions. You can also post some questions in the Telegram. Don't forget to do that. T.me/mission DeFi. And this is the Axelar. I'm loading up now. So Galen Moore from Axelar.
Joe, exactly.
All right. Would you qualify the project as a infrastructure play?
It is, yes. Infrastructure layer project, very much
Beautiful.
so. One of the big boxes that are checked for me joining, actually.
Nice.
I feel like it's very early days.
Nice.
A lot of exciting use cases developing, right? In fact, as we think about it, like use cases developing ahead of infrastructure, really, even though like a lot of the existential angst is around like, what is this good for? What is it used for? What's the use case? What's the killer app? But if you look back to like where we are in terms of infrastructure development for this, internet of ownership, if you will, right? Of internet of like validated, right, secure data. Where are we in relationship to the development of infrastructure, say relative to the internet?
Right.
It's the 80s.
Absolutely.
If that,
absolutely.
Right? It is very early.
Absolutely.
This is very immature infrastructure.
Yep.
Imagine you're trying to do Amazon in 1985.
Oh,
That's what DeFi is. It's a use case that's leapt way ahead of the infrastructure that we have.
Totally agree.
So, I feel personally, I feel very, the idea of working on infrastructure is very attractive, feels very necessary. Nice. And it also kind of meets with my conviction that like, the use cases that will emerge are yet to be seen.
Right.
Like around the corner.
That's awesome. Yeah. All right. So Galen Moore from Axelar, tell us how you ended up in this space and ended up there and what you're doing.
Yeah. Okay, so I started out in the space back in 2017.
Okay.
I started a project with a good friend of mine, Peter Vesinas,
okay,
who was an OG Bitcoiner, and was getting involved in the Ethereum ecosystem at the time, and was noticing that there was really no real quality news coverage of that market. There was really minimal level of analysis available, let alone data, and I had come from a media background. I come from a startup and venture capital, technology coverage, media background. I worked for American City Business Journals for many years.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Ran a unit of that company covering the venture and technology industry specifically. And, was certainly aware of Bitcoin, was like dimly aware of Ether and Ethereum, but really in the beginning saw it as a media opportunity, like could see that what Peter was saying was right. There was no coverage. CoinDesk at that time was staying away from ICOs like they were radioactive, which in hindsight, in hindsight they missed some really exciting projects. I mean, so when I jumped in, I was watching projects like Gnosis, build and do their thing, right? Like, and projects that are still building today, like doing really exciting, providing really exciting components in the Ethereum ecosystem, were just getting off the ground then, and there was no coverage of any of it. So we launched a project together, kind of, gathering data, doing analysis in that space. Unfortunately, I think, we all sort of know how that story ends.
Sure.
Which is, with the crash of the ICO market. And for me, a certain amount of disillusionment.
I think we all went through that.
I spent some time then at CoinDesk after that, and really that was a great place to be. Got to see the market broadly, got to see a lot of different things. Worked on some interesting projects there. Worked on CoinDesk indexes, which is the index for the NAV of GBTC, and a bunch of other partners and products in the sort of traditional finance space. And when I had the opportunity to join Sergey at Axelar, I started as an advisor in 2021 through a good friend who was an early investor, Wykit Lau. Okay. Very smart investor who's been involved in a lot of projects in the space. And he and I go way back, just from old Boston tech days. Got involved in that way as an advisor, more and more like the project, like the team. Got to meet Yorgos, Sergey's co-founder, and joined full time right around this time in 2022.
What's your role in the company?
Comms.
There we
comms.
Go. I knew that was going to come out of your mouth. That's great. Yeah, absolutely. That's excellent. All right, so tell us kind of what Axelar is, who it's for, and what it does. I mean, why it's here.
Sure. So Axelar, in a nutshell, is secure cross-chain communication. Okay. If you think about it in layman's terms, like somebody who's never heard of Ethereum before, we do Brinks trucks on the internet. So if every blockchain is a bank within which you're pretty secure, right? My dollars are insured, whatever they are. The bank is secure.
Right.
We do the cash logistics that bring bearer instruments between those entities, those institutions, again, over the internet, digitally. So we connect Ethereum. We connect the whole world of EVMs. Okay. We connect the Cosmos ecosystem as well. Nice. So regardless of consensus mechanism, regardless of programming language, regardless of protocol, we translate all those things and provide a secure layer that transmits, whether it's a wrapped token or whether it's a message, for example, a message indicating state on one chain to another, or a function call triggering an action on a dApp on another chain. Right. We provide developers with infrastructure and tooling to build in that way, really to compose in a completely interchain, chain agnostic kind of way. Right. I'm building on the chain that's best for me, best for my use case, best for my users, and I'm able to pull functions, able to welcome tokens, welcome users from any other chain in the ecosystem, really in a completely abstracted way that is totally abstracted to the user. Right. The user's not aware. They don't have to think about, okay, what chain is that on? What chain am I on? Right. They're just interacting with the dApp. They know they've got their token. They want to do something. They're able to do it. Nice. Very nice. So from the perspective of the developers, I can essentially enable just about anything from another chain. Are people utilizing this for things like cross-chain? I mean, are they literally bridging tokens with it as well? Bridging tokens, I think, for us probably continues to be the largest source of volume at this point. Okay. But that's beginning to change. I'll give you an example of a project that is changing that. There's a project that's building with Axelar. I don't want to say building on top of Axelar because we're not like a layer one, Right. But they have built this thing that really does sit on top of Axelar. It's a liquidity router cross-chain. So what that does is, when you want to do a cross-chain, I mean, think about your experience, like, just swapping on a centralized exchange, for example, right? Like on Coinbase or something. Right. You go in, you've got the one token that you holding, whatever it was that you got in with, right. And you see something else you're interested in, you want to sell a little bit, swap a little bit of that token for that other thing. Yep. They've got the liquid pair, boom, you do it. You don't even think about it. Nice. Squid is enabling that to happen over completely decentralized infrastructure. So there's no central order book. And basically the way they do that is they use AXL USDC, which is our wrapped version of USDC. Right? We take USDC cross-chain, wrapped. So basically we are securing USDC on the Ethereum chain, and then, indicating that yes, this much AXL USDC is available on, chain A, B, C, D.
Right.
So Squid uses AXL USDC as a routing asset.
Okay.
And it creates basically cross-chain liquidity routing. So you can come into Squid, and it's squidrouter.com is the URL. You can come into Squid with token A and swap for token B that is on a completely other chain, and the experience is
seamless.
Pretty seamless. I mean,
nice.
now, it's DeFi, so you're still waiting for finality on
course,
chain A.
Of course.
It's not, you don't have the sort of central entity taking on that finality risk in the middle.
Right.
But certainly people could come in and provide that service in a decentralized way as well, where you could have that sort of instant.
That's interesting. So they're making use of the liquidity across the chains. Essentially, they're creating a cross-chain swap mechanism.
That's exactly right. It's a cross-chain swap. And what makes that possible is a feature that we have called general message passing, which it's the most boring name in the world. It literally describes exactly what it is. You can send arbitrary data from chain to chain. So not just wrapped assets, but you could send, as I described earlier, a function call. So what Squid does is they send a wrapped asset along with a function call triggering an execution on the other chain.
Nice.
Right. And so what we see in a way is like as the kind of sophistication and like it's not really sophistication, but like the sort of mindset or paradigm evolves, right? In the developer community, and people start thinking in a more kind of cross-chain or multi-chain way, I think you're going to see, sort of TVL and even transfer volume becoming less and less important,
right?
Because you can leave the asset right where it is,
exactly,
right? And you can sort of indicate state cross-chain, trigger an action on another chain.
Yeah.
So like TVL doesn't matter so much in that kind of
brilliant
context.
So Squid's essentially using the composability or permissionless of, say, another DEX on another chain, the liquidity pool, to actually execute these swaps. But they're providing that face of it to the end user. They're using Axelar to actually be able to send those messages back and forth.
Axelar handles the security of those messages going back and forth. That's exactly right. And we have a proof of stake based validator set. Right? It's a dynamic validator set. Anyone can accumulate stake and join the active validator set. At this point, I think we have 70 in the active validator set. And those are, those parameters are determined at the protocol level.
Right.
So, vote by the validators to determine, what is the size of the active validator set. And, for us, it's like, I think this is a question that a lot of people are answering right now. How do you secure messages between chains? What's the best way to do that? For us, the answer is very clear and simple. You use the same security approach as the chains you connect. So most of the chains we connect are proof of stake, right, and certainly other consensus mechanisms will emerge and evolve. Right. But for us right now, when we look at that, we say, that's the right way to secure these messages and make sure that they get to where they're supposed to go.
So you guys are providing what the developers are buying from you, using of yours, is the fact that you're securing those messages through these validator nodes. And then you're providing the APIs and the tools and the capability for those messages to transact. But they're happening on chain, the messaging.
Right.
So the key factor there is that you're securing that both of these things are happening on both sides of whatever that communication is.
The validators vote. It's built on Tendermint consensus, which is Cosmos, right? The validator set votes on an event on chain A.
Right.
So it could be token A is deposited in a contract on chain A.
Right.
And then they authorize an action on chain B, which could be issuance of a wrapped version of that token to an address.
Nice.
And again, there can be even you can get a little more sophisticated and fun with that too. Like it could be, okay, issue that wrapped token and then distribute it to these 6 addresses.
Right.
So like, for example, let's say you're managing a cross-chain DAO, like a gaming guild or something, and you don't want to be confined to opportunities in your guild that are just on one chain.
Sure.
You want to be able to also welcome, user players into your gaming guild, from whatever chain they might come from if they're good enough.
Yep.
So how do you handle both coordinating activities and also payouts in a kind of decentralized cross-chain environment? Axelar is providing the infrastructure layer to make that kind of thing possible. And I will say, by the way, also in terms of Squid, they do have at squidrouter.com, you can find their widget, their demo app, right? But they are really an infrastructure provider as well, and have
they want to provide the same.
Yeah,
they want to provide that layer to projects to integrate Squid Router.
Absolutely. I just did an AMA this morning with Vela, which is one of the fastest growing exchanges on Arbitrum, fastest growing dexes on Arbitrum. They're doing like perp swaps on Arbitrum, very similar to GMX if you're familiar with that one. And yeah, Squid, they're using Squid on the back end so that you can come in with any token, right? You want to mess around in that market, right? It's not for me, per se, right? I'm done setting my own pants on fire. Yeah, 50, I think is their limit. Yeah. But if you want to, for users who want to come in and do that, the token is not an obstacle, right? I got to get their native token. I got to get ETH. I got to get USDC, whatever,
Right.
You can come in with whatever you got. Atom, no problem. Come right in, do your thing.
That's awesome. That's fantastic.
Does Change do something like that?
Yeah, I was just going to bring that up. Right. There's a project I interviewed on my show, the founder of. It's called Change, CHAINGE. It's based on a blockchain called Fusion.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I don't think that the messaging system works the same way. I think it's somewhat similar. But I think the advantage that you and Squid Router and other people building on top of you have is that you're taking a more measured, they're taking a very consumer front facing, like here's your DEX, here's your staking, here's your, come use our tool. And they have APIs, they have whatever, but you guys are taking an approach of, well, why wouldn't we just let developers layer this into the projects they already have, solve the pain points that they have, because this is a pain everyone has, right? I mean, Joe and I have been harping for 2.5 years that the entire world's going to be seamlessly cross-chain, right? And so that's what you guys are really
Yes, exactly.
It moves it into infrastructure, like the examples of electricity or plumbing, all those things where now we got to do this complicated thing to make sure, hey, did it get there?
Right.
Eventually, it's just going to be through products like yours, where it's just seamless, and nobody's going to think about it.
Abstraction layers.
Yeah, I just want to buy X.
Exactly. Yeah. It used to be like, oh, you're on Prodigy, I'm on AOL or something like that.
Yeah.
Like the user experience of the internet in the early days was a lot different, and there was a lot that wasn't yet abstracted from the user. Those layers got built.
Right.
Whether it was at the protocol level, right, with things like Border Gateway Protocol, HTTP, right, or TCP, IP, all of that.
Right.
Up until the kind of service layers that got built as well, like Akamai, right, for example. And now I'm really indexing myself to Boston here, pretty hard. But still, Akamai and overlay networks like that were a huge step forward in the internet, made things like YouTube even fucking possible.
Right.
Pardon my language.
No, you're right. It's okay. We swear, don't worry.
Oh, yeah, you don't have to worry about swearing. Right? Because you can be in, wherever, Dar es Salaam, and I'm in Boston, and we can, have a Zoom call together, and that's not a problem.
Right.
As a result of having an overlay network that does more than just kind of link up via protocol and best efforts, but actually provides a virtual overlay and a service that has visibility into all the underlying networks.
Right.
And in a way, that's how you could think of Axelar. It really is an overlay network because it's not just a protocol that enables A to communicate to B, but it's a whole set of services that ensure that message is routed, is really getting delivered in a way that the user will.
That's cool.
What's your revenue model?
That was my next question.
Sorry.
That was awesome.
I think for us, as I mentioned, it's actually a great segue because, so we just had an event here at ETHDenver and as part of Biddle Week, which is the week that leads up to ETHDenver. And we call it the Interops Summit. So we convened a lot of our partners, a lot of people, who are just interested in interoperability and cross-chain in general. It was a great event. We had, capacity crowd both days at a little co-working space over in Denver, over on the other side of Denver called Green Spaces. And one of the things that we came out with during that event that we announced was the Axelar virtual machine. So this is not, I want to take pains to emphasize, we are not a layer one. We are not launching a virtual machine that you can build applications on top of. But it is a Turing complete service, right? A Turing complete layer that enables, basically enables us to provide services that make it easier for developers. So, I'm presenting this vision of what cross-chain development looks like, but I think we are still pretty far from that vision. The truth is, for applications building on Axelar, connecting a new chain, managing your existing deployments on other chains when those chains upgrade or whatever happens, it is a shit ton of work, right? I think we estimate as much as 70% or 80% of the time that developers are spending is going into that kind of, messing around at the infrastructure layer and making sure that those connections are working right.
Sure.
Or expanding and adding. So what we're able to do with Axelar Virtual Machine is provide these kind of orchestration services like a hypervisor,
Right.
Where and so we have Axelar, we have interchain Maestro, we call it. Basically, come in, deploy on the new chain that you want to deploy on, and these services that are automated on the virtual machine layer will automate all of those processes for you. Right. So because it's a Turing complete layer, we can work, and it's based on CosmWasm, by the way. We can bake in these automated functions so that all the things that you might be doing with your developers to make sure your cross-chain, your multi-chain DApp is working in the right way, that can be automated. You can really get to a point where you sort of with one click can say, okay, update, right? Like, add new chain, right? Awesome. That sort of thing. Those processes, like replicate what I did on chains A, B, and C onto chain D, right? All of those things can be handled by the developer, in the same way that you really see developers using things like Kubernetes today, right? And the other piece of it is we call interchain amplifier. Now, this is a service that really just lets anybody add a new chain. So you've just developed like a new consensus method that is, blows everything else out of the water, right? And everybody's going to be using it. Connect it to the Axelar network, self-service, and you can start recruiting user DApp developers to say, look, route your messages through my security. It's going to be faster. It's going to be more secure. And so they can say, yes, you know what? When transactions are over 10 million, they got to go through this thing. Nice. Because, I want my users to be safe.
Right.
Just on that, like transaction size, do you carry any type of like insurance around the transactions?
We do, actually. Yeah, we do. We have a small amount of the token set aside, about 5% for insurance. And that really is like a final backstop when it comes to security. For us, security begins with that decentralized layer. I mentioned proof of stake, right? So having this dynamic validator set, this decentralized model, that's, I think history has proven, right, that centralized setups are subject to failure at best and malicious action at worst. And sometimes the line between the two is hard to parse. So on top of that, we look to kind of decentralize further, maximize decentralization. Earlier in 2022, we implemented quadratic voting. Which is something Vitalik has talked about quite a bit, right? Absolutely. Which, basically in a nutshell, it means that with the number of voting shares that you hold, the number of voting tokens or units of stake that you hold, the power of your vote decreases quadratically, right? So basically, you get more, you amass more tokens, but your vote does not increase linearly. Your voting power does not increase linearly with the amount of tokens you amass. So for example, if you have one token, you can cast one vote, right? But to cast 2 votes, you need 4 tokens, right? And to cast 3 votes, you need 9 tokens, right? And so it goes up in that sort of exponential way rather than in the kind of linear way that you would see in a typical, for example, shareholder voting.
Like a one-to-one.
And a board where it's one unit, one vote, right? You own one share, you have one vote in what the company does. Right. So I don't mean to go on a tangent, but this is like one of the things that I get kind of excited about, these like novel forms of governance. Of course. Right? How do we do that? So that's something we implemented last year, and I think you'll see more stuff like that from us where we're looking for ways to improve the decentralize further. On top of that, I mean, look, frequent code audits. We're audited by some of the best in the business, and those audits are publicly available on our GitHub. Nice. And then also, bug bounties, of course. Sure. We have a robust bug bounty program. And then also, there are a number of rules that are at the protocol layer. For example, like validator security rules. Like we require key rotations from our validators, so that you would, to prevent, say, a persistent attacker who would come in and compromise one validator, compromise another validator, and slowly, without anybody realizing, they've got a significant voting share of keys. Right. We prevent that by rules like validator key rotations. And then in addition to that, there are also limits. Rate limits on transactions. Okay. So to prevent like a massive theft. That's cool. Basically, so kind of to contain the potential damage of a breach. Right. I would say our approach. We're not. We don't have hubris. Right. I think when you hear people talk about security, I always like to hear people talk with humility. Sure. Right. Yeah. Sure. When I hear people talk about security with humility, that's when I gain trust. One example is the co-founders of Ledger. Have always taken that approach, and even when they're in the eye of the crypto press, because there's been a breach or something, they're still taking that kind of approach in the way they communicate, and I think that's an approach we take as well. But certainly, we're doing everything we can at multiple layers to maximize the security of the network.
This sounds impressive.
Where do your nodes live on Axelar or do they live on chains?
So, that's a good question. So our validators operate, in order to be a validator on Axelar network, you must operate a node on, I guess, at least one, maybe more, connected chain. And certainly most of our validators do.
Okay.
So
there are already validators for the chain.
they're observing what's happening. And they have to have a node on that chain. Most of them are already also validating on that chain, right? Because the economics of it, that would make sense, right? Which, in a way, well, let me just kind of go through that, and we can talk about kind of the security implications of it. So what we have is a validator observing an event on one chain because they are running a node on that chain, right? And then they're voting on the Axelar network where they run a node, right? And to approve that action actually occurred, that change in state has occurred, and then they're again authorizing an action collectively on the target chain. And so in order to do all of those things, they have to have a node on chain A and on chain B, and most of them have nodes on more chains than that, and we connect more than 30 at this point.
Okay,
but we do leave it open for validators to validators do not have to connect all of those chains to be operating on all of those chains.
Okay,
they can pick and choose and say, okay, well, I'm going to validate on 5, 6, 10, 12, or all of the connected chains. And I would think I think there's a lot of speculation about what would happen if this, what would happen if a validator accumulated enough stake and they could do this or that. I think one thing that it's important for people to take into account is the reputational risk that also exists, certainly for validators, right? If they're validating on multiple chains, for them, we have great validators. Course One is a validator. Galaxy is validating on our chain. I mean, the list goes. Coinbase Cloud, we have just some of the best validators in the business on our chain, and for them to sort of mess around, for them to fuck around and find out, would be an expensive proposition.
Of course, no, that makes total sense. That makes total sense. There's part of me that looks at this and says, "Wow, you guys could be in a very unique position of power," and I don't mean power over. But if you play your cards right, if this thing works well, and a lot of developers are utilizing Axelar, I know your goal is not to be, you aren't a layer 1, you're not a layer 2, you're none of that, but you actually become, with enough momentum, you become a very powerful force.
Very useful.
Useful is good.
I mean, certainly we don't.
And I don't mean powerful. I don't mean powerful like you're malicious or a bad actor. Right. I just mean that as I look at the potential for this, it becomes very clear to me that there's a lot of potential.
We definitely have that level of utility in mind, and I think when you think on that scale, it's when some of the security approaches that we just talked about really start to matter.
Makes sense.
If you're just sending some funds between a few friends, like a little multi-sig is really fine.
Yeah.
Right.
But
if you want to build something that can scale, building in that security or at the early stage is really important. I can't stress enough. We don't. Look, Axelar is a blockchain.
Right.
Technically, I guess you could come and build an app on top of it. And,
right.
Use it in that way.
Right.
But we cooperate with so many of the layer 1 blockchains that we connect. We're very close with them. Work closely with their developers. Work closely with them to and with their ecosystems, right, to sort of enable the dApps that are on those chains to bring in liquidity from other chains.
Sure.
It's a huge benefit for a lot of the new L1s that have come up.
Makes sense.
It almost fits that definition of layer 0 that we used to talk about in the past. Cosmos, we sometimes say, is a layer 0.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. You kind of seem to be like that, like an analog to that in a way, but almost like a little bit in between. It's like there's a few of those over on Cosmos that seem to not necessarily be in Cosmos. They're all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
So you're kind of like at that piece, but just below a layer 1, but just above a layer 0, because you can add functionality to everybody. Cosmos to every other chain.
It comes up a lot we come from the Cosmos ecosystem. We built there, right? Look, the water is warm over there, by the way, for all the Ethereum folks. It is really, Cosmos ecosystem, there's a lot of exciting things happening. It's a great place to be. Not that Ethereum isn't, but just have been really impressed. I didn't know a lot about that community before I joined Axelar. And have learned a lot about it, and it's a very impressive place. But I think it comes up a lot. Okay, so are you competing with interchain protocol with interblock with IBC?
Right.
Are you competing with IBC? And we don't view it that way. Certainly, look, IBC is a protocol. It connects. It's a way that chains can connect, can do this thing, right? Not everybody can implement it. Right. Axelar extends IBC by making it easy for people to connect to any Cosmos chain that's on IBC.
Oh, that's right.
So EVM plugging in, very easy.
Oh, okay.
And also, I think, again, that services layer that we're providing is like we're building on, and it's another way we're kind of extending and expanding.
Right.
What IBC can do is by providing, IBC-like capabilities to the entire ecosystem.
Yeah, are there fees? Is this how you guys make money? Are there fees between these for every one of these communication channels?
Yeah, exactly. So when and this is actually an interesting point. So when you send a transaction over Axelar, you do pay a fee. Our fees are not huge,
right?
But one thing people sometimes fail to take into account is like the gas cost on the connected chains, and it's not just the gas cost that you might pay for a standard transaction within that chain. It's going to be more expensive,
right?
So just to run the compute on Ethereum, for example, you're going to pay like $10 in gas, to send a transaction across chain. Like, especially for some people coming from like Avalanche ecosystem or Cosmos ecosystem.
Oh yeah, forget it. It's like, what the hell?
Yeah. But so part of the fees are fees in AXL to Axelar stakeholders and validators, and then of course part of the fees are to validators and stakers on the connected chains.
Sure.
Whatever sort of process needs to be executed on those chains, you're paying the gas. One of the things that Axelar does, one of the services that we provide, and this is a permissionless service, anybody can build something to provide this service using Axelar SDK, actually, no, I'm sorry, excuse me. They wouldn't have to use Axelar SDK. We built it with Axelar SDK, so it's something we provide to developers to integrate a gas services payment. So basically, you come in on chain A, you want to do something to chain C, you've got chain A token, you pay your gas fees once in chain A token. Right. You don't need then to acquire chain C token
to pay
and go over and pay the gas to finalize the transaction and execute on that side.
Yeah, that'd be a nightmare.
Right? Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Nobody wants that kind of user experience. So what we're doing is on the back end, we're converting chain A token to AXL and to chain C token.
Nice.
Right. And so that we can enable all of those gas payments to happen automatically along the way. We provide a block explorer, axelarscan.io.
Nice.
Actually, I strongly recommend anybody listening go check it out. Look, I was a data nerd. I always have been, and got into crypto because I'm a data nerd. And Axelar Scan, like honestly, I know I'm talking my own book here, but Axelar Scan is the best block explorer I've ever used.
Oh, nice.
I can't say enough.
Nice.
In sort of praise of the team that works on that product. And it is, it's very useful for folks. Look, it's the blockchain. Transactions get stuck.
Sure.
It doesn't always work just right.
Right.
The infrastructure, as we were saying earlier, is immature. So tracking a transaction, troubleshooting, getting it to where it needs to go. The Axelar Scan and the Axelar Scan API, which is also available. Those tools make it easier for developers and users to make sure that things get done the way they're supposed to.
Nice.
Cool,
very
cool.
nice. This looks awesome, man. Sounds
I
really
love
good.
it. Very
Sounds
nice.
really powerful. Sounds like developers are going to flock. How long has it been available?
So mainnet launch was in January of 2022.
Oh, okay.
We were, on testnet in like Q4 of 2021. The white paper was written in January 2021. I'm kind of going backwards in time here. We launched general message passing capability in a local developer environment in March of 2022. Then it was rolled out to mainnet, I think that June. AXL token launched in September. So that's, a big milestone for us in terms of decentralization of the network, right?
Sure.
We had validators running on mainnet before that, but now for the first time, the tokens in the wild, you can accumulate stake, right? Provide that service on the network. I think the path to decentralization continues. We continue to sort of distribute the token and work toward that point where we are, we really can say that we're like fully decentralized.
Very cool. Very cool. Appreciate you coming to tell us about it, man.
Well, I really appreciate you guys having me on.
AXELAR
Network.
.network.
AXELAR.network.
So if you're a developer and you're looking for a way to easily sync cross-chain, communicate cross-chain, swap cross-chain, whatever, you should check out.
Come and see us. Yeah, and I'm on Twitter. My handle is my full name, Galen Moore. I'm a total non-anon. I'm like fully doxed to the world.
That's good.
like I said, I came from a news media background, so
everybody knew you already.
But seriously, look, I mean, I'm here. I'm ready to interact with anybody who wants to answer questions. I think the whole team feels that way. I know our engineers are in the Discord constantly,
nice,
working with developers, figuring things out. So yeah, come check us out. Join the Discord, bring your questions. Telegram too. The docs are there available as well. We hope they're good.
Are you guys hiring?
We are, absolutely. Okay. We're hiring across the board in all kinds of roles. And, look, we're not, I think, we're not trying to grow like massively, we're not trying to grow bigger than we need to be, especially in this climate.
Right.
And also because, we view ourselves as an open source project. Sure. But we've been fortunate to raise a bunch of venture capital.
Nice.
And so we're, putting that to use to really build that, the difficult job of building that secure foundation and technology for the network.
Final note, who are your funders?
Let's see. Dragonfly Capital, Polychain, nice. Galaxy is an investor. I can't name all of North Island. We were just talking with Travis from North Island this morning. Fantastic firm that does not toot their own horn, in my opinion, enough. But that's their vibe, and it's really working for them. They made so many great investments. We've been honestly really fortunate to have a lot of really great investors.
Cool.
Very cool, man. Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on.
Yeah,
nice to meet you,
man. Nice to meet you, Galen.
Nice to meet you, buddy. All right, gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, hope everyone enjoyed that. Joe, I'm going to sign us off. I don't know if you're still around or not, but I'm going to.
Oh, yeah, I'm here, buddy. I'm here.
All right.
I just don't know if I'm going to, which one to add, but super great guy, Galen. Galen Moore, right? Is his last name?
Yep.
Yeah, cool. Good job.
All right. Well, hope everybody enjoyed that and got a lot from it. If you're developing or building in a space, check those guys out. They might be helpful to you. Otherwise, we'll see you back tomorrow. We'll have CoreDAO on. Go check out Joe's tweet and make sure and retweet it. But we appreciate you all joining us today. Thank you, Niblets and Chuck and Shizzy. Anybody else chat in today? I think that was it for today. Appreciate you guys being here. We love and appreciate everybody that's watching and listening. Look for a lot more interviews this week, a lot more posts than just our normal show posts. And we'll see you guys tomorrow. Please, if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please subscribe and make sure you rate and review us. It will do a lot to help us grow our community. And if you haven't joined the community on Telegram yet, don't forget to go to t.me/mission DeFi. Meeting a lot of really cool, a lot of fun people over there, having a really good time in the space, learning from each other. So don't miss out on all the alpha and all the sharing that's going on. And if you're watching on YouTube, please make sure you subscribe. Click the little bell so you get alerted when new episodes come out. And Joe would like for you to smash the thumbs up. So smash the thumbs up. Thank you very much. Hope everybody has a great day. Joe, have a great day.
You too, buddy. Talk to you later on this afternoon. And we'll remember tomorrow, CoreDAO, everyone. That tweet's blowing up too, by the way. So read the white paper, coredao.org.
All right, folks.
Talk
Take
to you
care.
later.